Hey everyone, hope you are all doing great, healthy, and well. We have a new tarot deck again from my favorite publisher, Scarabeo, Dancing in the Dark Tarot by Gianfranco Parino. This is what the box looks like, your old standard tarot box, not very protective of your cards, so you may need to consider better protection. Now inside you have the cards themselves and a basic guidebook. With everything out of the box, you will get the standard 2 additional cards. One all about social media networking, the latest news, and the other is based on subscription. And then you get your 78 cards and of course your little guidebook. Speaking of the guidebook, it is a very basic with 4 languages. You get 4 pages worth of information about this deck. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it for a few seconds or two, so that way, if you want to see what it says or what this deck is about, you can by all means you can pause and read each section of the page. I will kind of provide that same information while I'm going through each of the decks. So pretty much what I'm going to do is just kind of rehash what's been said in the booklet about what this deck is about. Now I've had it for almost a couple of days, almost a week now. I've had this deck, so I've gotten a good understanding of what it's generally all about. But even though it's a small book, you are provided quite sufficient information just to give you an idea what the author was trying to kind of like put out. So I kind of appreciate what the author's done, at least explain it. It still follows the RWS system, and cards will still clearly, illustrate that and demonstrate that. The meanings are very brief, as you can see. Maybe not enough for beginners, but that's what they give you. Probably best suited for advanced users. It's up to you. You would know best, but again, pause and read some of the meanings here that I'm highlighting to give you kind of a indication. So that is the small booklet overall that you will get. The back of the cards has this very antique work of art to it. Parts of it in the middle seems like a mirror of some sort, depicting a picture of someone on their horse. It's fairly interesting. The cards are plain finished, not really laminated, glossy or matte finish. It just comes across to me as just plain paper that is some sort of, that is reflective. You'll probably see here where you'll kind of get an idea of the reflection on the cards that it can have. Both sides of the cards, the imagery is very clear. You could see here closely how the image is very clear, and also the reflective part of the card. Now, the card stock, personally, I don't think it's great. To me, it's super thin, and the overall feel is cheap. You will instantly notice upon touching the cards, they're not really done the deck justice here. It's one of the major things that I'm very disappointed with. I think it's the only thing that I'm really disappointed with. And it's the thing that I really don't like about this card. It really has bothered me to the point where I've considered laminating the deck, testing it out, that I've done, that I tend to do on rare occasion, but still it didn't feel right to me overall. So, I've dealt with it now. I'm going to leave it the way it is. Now, my deck came directly from the publisher and not via some third party. So I'm assuming that everyone will get the same quality of the stock once it comes out later June or worldwide. But it's the most disappointed part about this deck. Now you could see here it's got borders around. Again, I don't understand why. I thought the imagery would have been best completely borderless and have it all in black with the image in the middle. But this is what it will look like. So you've got your imagery in the middle, and then you've got the borders outside. The cards overall do feel comfortable in the hands, but again, you are going to notice that cheap feeling towards them. They come plain edge, so not gilded or anything like that. I was considering to trim these down, but again, the paper quality is so poor to the point where I can't even trim this down. So I'm having to deal with it overall. So that's something for you to be aware of. So now let's dive in and have a look at each of these cards. So we have the Fool, Magician, and High Priestess as our basis first cards. In the Fool, we have an actress reenacting the Fool with some key bits set up on display. A young female is leaping up, looks like she's reaching to the moon. A leap of faith, the commence of one's soul journey, was on display. The magician levitating with key symbols and tools around, below and above him, indicating he has everything available to him, but also being able to levitate like that, it's an indication of great and clear power of the mind. High Priestess is so to me. Yes, it has the symbols and pillars, but not really as effective. I suppose the darkness would be an indication of looking into the depths of one's soul. This would be one example of where, if you were not already accustomed to tarot or have a good enough knowledge, it could not mean much to you. So not really ideal for beginners. The Empress has indication of feminine energy there, not much power of nature or motherhood. Again, it's a so for me. The Emperor, I think, is pretty good. You have the masculine power there on display. The part armor being worn, the boundaries and stability of the throne with the rams, floating crown and symbols, which is quite fairly nice. Hierophant, again, it looks pretty standard. You've got the traditional aspects on display, religious structure with bits of symbols behind the structured seat there, and the keys in front. So there's various indication of traditional religious beliefs going on. The Lovers looks great. The Winged Angel, I suppose, is an indication of Eden or paradise, with the two trees providing indication of two choices leading to different consequences. I love the red as well in there with the snake as danger, and also with her kind of indication of the passion as well. So you can see on some occasion with these first few cards, it's pretty well done in some places, but in others, it's not so great. And this deck will need backing of knowledge. We have the Chariot, which clearly looks confident and demonstrating taking charge. So that looks pretty standard, even though fairly lame. Strength has that gentleness and the power of the Force in there. Again, only so much you can read into it. It's so balancing two sides. A Hermit has this very mystic vibe to it, with different parts of darkness underneath. Could be an indication of deepening of either wisdom or retreat. We have our next cards: the Wheel, Justice card, Hangman, and the Death card. Again, we seem to have the right things on display: the spotlight on key symbols, the elements by the animals, sacred direction in the wheels. And same again, standard in the Justice card. We've got sitting between the what do you call them, the dual pillars, like the Hierophant and the High Priestess, the Scale of Libra, our swords, all standard. We've got our Hangman, also standard. I like how the glow around his head is highlighted in a different lighting, giving that deeper meaning and indication of scent-like, or the illumination of spirituality. So that's kind of a nice little touch. Again, very minimal. Our Death card, I really don't like it. Could have been done better. Yes, okay, we have sunrise and then the background. The ship has passed by, long gone. The crown has been let go of. indication of death, letting go, and transition, new beginning. It's okay, but you know, it does, what I like here going forward is how it does pick it up near the end. And you'll start to see here in these cards where there is a lot more in the images, which helps you much more to kind of like get into it and, you know, really kick off your imagination. Got the temperance there, which was standard. You got the devil here, which I like. To me, this is brilliant imagery. This is what I like to see here. Awesome. The reenactment of that, of the devil going on, and then it goes on here with the tower as well. That is what, you know, there's a lot happening in here, loads of these specific symbolism and things that you can pick up, you know, things to trigger my imagination and go deep down. This is what I like to see. This is where it really does pick up and gets better, helps with your envisionment of what's going on in the cards, you know, highlighting the key symbolisms. You could see here, look at how from where we started, it was quite subtle images to now where it's like full packed on with various different things and you know, motions going on that you can use. You can start really envisioning and seeing things taking place. I mean, look at the moon here. I think it has to be the most popularized card out of all of them, where you can really see a lot going on here. And I think it's just like the perfect display of the moon. Even the sun card here, very striking parts of the image, which is absolutely great and really liven things up from where we started. Even the judgment, look at the way that's been done, the reenactment of the judgment there. Absolutely amazing. Lot more people involved, crowded in there. Real great job. So this is what I really, this is where I really start to like this deck, where it really goes, populates the image quite a lot more, helps your imagination, helps you properly deep dive a lot more. So you've got a lot to take in, and I'm not just purely basing a lot of my sort of interpretation on based on the knowledge of Norintoro itself and the various different characters and the various different symbolism, which is, you know, very nice. Our last card, the world, standard again, but I like how it looks like she's stepping out from what could be a portal. So overall, this deck can be somewhat difficult to use in a reading. I feel I personally think it would be best suited for one's self, for soul level work. You are going to definitely need that time to sit with each image, envision the reenactment in the cards, what it is trying to highlight to you. You're gonna definitely need to sit with the image for a while. Deep dive is needed for sure here. Maybe best suited for shadow work. Also, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but there is no wordings of any kind on this deck, just numbers. The major arcanas were all in the Roman numerals. And here with the suits, it's pretty much all in your standard numbers, and that's also including the court cards as well. With the court cards, what you have is numbers of 11, 12, 13, and 14. All 11s will be your pages. All your 12s will be your knights. All of the 13s are your queens, and all of your 14s will be your kings. Now, if you've not guessed it already, the Dancing in the Dark story is the illumination of darkness. So each image in this deck is pretty much doing exactly that. You have the darkness, and in that darkness, spotlight is on each characters, playing out their story to you. It's like the theaters. In fact, it's pretty much exactly like a theatrical scene. You have collaborative performances taking place of what could be real or an imagined event, which is kind of performed by the various actresses and actors. You've got the different setup of scenes in each imagery. All of the performers, in one way or the other, is communicating the experience, or they're revealing, providing the various different flashes of insights, the revelations in each of these cards. So that is what it means by dancing in the dark. That is the theme, and I really kind of like that approach and what it's portraying, what it's trying to do. Unfortunately, of course, all of the performers are motionless, but it still gives a reenactment of the event. In the tarot form, it works well, I guess, as the general. It works well as the first impression. So when you look at these cards, it's like, what is the first impression that you're getting from this? What is this telling you? We've got the king and the queen. They're the performers are reenacting that scene. They're trying to tell you a story. What do you see going on here? How do you envision the performance taking place? So this is what I mean by deep diving a little bit more, or having to spend that time to sit with each deck and kind of let it sink into your mind. What do you see happening? Imagine the image taking form. Imagine the motions of it starts moving. So pretty much that's what this deck is putting out there, and the approach that you would have in kind of using this deck. Again, it's all subjective. Everyone is different, but I'm just kind of giving you my intake of it overall. The deck is okay. All symbols are there, and the suits are basically displayed in all areas, quite fairly standard. It's a mix. Some is a lot more populated than others. I have to keep reminding myself these are all snapshots. Those four introductional pages are important to read. It pretty much highlights and reminds you of that. It does say the performers are only illuminated for just a moment. Lights on, lights off, moving to the next scene. And it's all about quick first impression intervals. So when I'm approaching this deck, I kind of like have that in my mind, and it works, and it works really well. For example, I pull one card out, I write down my first impression, go to the next few cards, do the same, come right back around to the first card, look at it again, give my second impression of it, repeat the cycle a few times, and you start to notice things a little bit more every single time on that same scene. Even if you were to do it on the same card, you look at it, cover it, look at it again, cover it. It's like you've taken multiple pictures of the same scene with your camera, and when you go back to reviewing each pictures, you tend to see different types of lighting, or the sharpness is different, little bits of everything, and you will always feel different things from that same image. Here we have the one suit. Now, not every part of the image would be in the spotlight. If you closely look, the Eight of Wands spotlight is only in the bottom part of the image. Now, why is that? And if we kind of like move on to the Nine of Wands, it's only on the character. And then you'll find the same thing within our card number 10. So not every part of that image would be in the spotlight. So, there's something there it's trying to tell you. It all depends on what part of the image your first impression was based on, or what it is, what part of that image were you gazed on or focused on. The 8 could have been trying to highlight to you on the spotlight location that something is very near to you, is about to be unveiled, because you had majority of the ones in the darkness, but yet at the very bottom of it, it's lit it up. So something is about to be unveiled to you, something's about to be revealed. And dependent on where I would have focused, where my first impression would have been on, it could have been on, the darker part of that 8 of wands. So something is still hidden away or still making its way to me that I'm not fully aware of. Or if I focus on the spotlight version, then I'm reading into it as, something is definitely coming near to me. That's the part that I notice. And it's the same thing throughout every single one of these cards, as an example of how you would kind of interpretate it. Well, for me personally, that's the way I'm doing it. 13 and 14, king and queens. We move on to our next, what is our next one? We've got the pentacles here. Again, images are illustrated nicely. Designs are fairly nice. A lot of them are very standard. We've got our ace of coins, very standard. You've got the clouds, you've got the hands coming out, massive illuminated clouds. You could see the spotlight seems to be purely on the coin. That's where I gazed directly. I was just looking at that coin, but other parts of the image are lit up, but it doesn't seem as though it's properly in the spotlight. So the more I will look at it, the more I'm going to pick various different parts of the cards. Here we've got the Two of Pentacles. My focus first went directly to the sea, but also her face and the clown clothing, struggling to balance the 2 coins, but yet you are dressed as a clown, which is funny to me. It gives me that feeling of doing all of this, but somehow managing to have a sense of humor. Massive pentacles grayed out there, indication of maybe needing help and support to finish the work. I really like the 4, 5, and 6, which is pretty standard. The 4, we have a city guy that doesn't look like he's about to share anything with you. Coins close to chest, another 2 firmly held in place under his feet. Clearly we can see what's on his mind, only the coin on his head. The image of the city in the background. 5 is very flashy pentacles on the windows with heavy snow on display, and 2 people looking helpless, feeling to it. A sign of hope, however, if is just by the side if they kind of stop in the self-pity. And the 6 there, I really like the 6 with the blue suit, the sharing the coins and the scale of give and take. We got our 7, 8, and 9. 7 looks like it's been a very good harvest that's come to fruition, but also there is 1 more coin underneath his pick that is still waiting to come into harvest as well. So I guess the indication of being patient and waiting for that. Our 8 is again very standard. We're looking at a devoted craftsman, mastering his art, his work on display. Again, you got the city there in the background. Maybe that's what he's aiming for. Our 9, 10, page, and knight, they're generally all pretty standard. You could see here, not much different to them. They pretty much just highlight what we've known these cards to be. So standard exactly here with the king and queens. Both of them are looking prosperous in their own way. The king, we've got what seems like a wise looking king, and on the other side we've got our queen that looks fairly generous. And again, you've got that red dress symbolism, so pretty standard there. And our last suits, we've got the swords. Again, it's all very standard, which I like to see. All of the swords are gold instead of silver. I'm not particularly sure as to why, but that's what we have. We have the same overall impressions. Some parts are great, some are not so great, others are not really anything that's special or different. Here we've got the Two of Swords. Three of Swords, for example, that looks pretty standard. Again, there's parts of it that are different. You've got the storms, the rainfall going on there. So you can kind of picture there's a lot of things going on there. The 4 is pretty basic, taking a time out and resting. I do like the 5 and 6, where it really is drawing you to come in deeper. So that's what I like about the 5 and 6. Spotlight seems to be more highlighted in that sword and versus the others there. I like the way that's being portrayed actually. Resting in the dark. The 5 has a deeper meaning there, I feel. Storm with black clouds, something brewing. The sword below your feet looks like it's going to trip you up. 2 versus 1. Seems like the odds are pretty much against you. 6 looks like shattered window or mirror of an image overall. Healing of shattered wounds, heading to safety to heal. Our 7, 8, 9 looks pretty good as well, quite standard. Our 7 of sword, looking very sly of a character. This face impression as well looks very alert and also as though he's plotting. Our 8, a lovely 8 of swords. You can clearly see one of the sword is in place roughly to cut herself free, but also at a certain perspective, it looks like she has plenty of room as well, open space to maneuver if she moves backwards or towards us. Our 9 is also not bad. There is more of an isolation feeling towards the 9 here in the darkness. Not bad. I like it. We've got our 10, 11, and 12. Also not so bad at all. Our 10 is great. I mean, my goodness. Talk about a complete failure. What a brutal mess. A massive defeat has taken place here. Very, very well done here. Even piercing right through the head. So that very nice 10 of swords there. Our 11, which is our page of swords, looks cold-hearted, yet looking at his face impression shows deep thoughts that flow. Our knight, our number 12, again cold and a lot more ruthless from our page. Impulsive movement there with the horse. King and queen is standard, both powerful intellect characters. So I'm just going to do a quick flip through and then we'll pretty much end the video at that. So there you go, guys. That is Dancing in the Dark, in the Dark Toro. It's not a bad deck. It's just a pity with the stock quality. So that is it. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Check out for the next ones. Take care.